iOS 14 is here. Per our yearly tradition, this is the video where we go over some of my favorite features, and maybe talk about some of the things you still haven't heard about this new update. So my favorite feature has got to be widgets. As I'm sure you've probably heard, you can make widgets as big or small as you like and put them on your home screen, but you can't put them in any place. It's very Apple-like. They can only go in certain positions in order to retain the amount of space in between your apps, but I'm okay with that. It would probably look bad in any other place. Smart Stack is nice. It's actually a feature we've had for years already on the desktop on macOS. If you didn't know, you can just right-click on your desktop and click Use Stacks, and then you can stack together similar documents to clean up your desktop. Well, now you can do that with the widgets on your home screen and clean that up as well. So it's nice to see that feature under the same name carry over to iOS. I feel like that's kind of just a general theme with everything at this keynote. Things are just merging together. iOS is getting features like that from macOS, and of course, macOS is getting a design overhaul to look like iPadOS. Not to mention the fact that Macs are about to run with the same processors as iPads and iPhones, allowing for a crossover between apps, just months after I've made an entire video about why Final Cut Pro will never be on iPad. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. Stacks. Little known fact is that you can actually make your own custom stacks. You can stack certain widgets on top of each other to make your own stacks, or take Apple's default stack and remove any widgets you don't want, like photos or notes. But quite honestly, other than weather and calendar, the Apple stock widgets are pretty average at best and not super helpful. But I'm really excited for third-party widgets. I think that will be when this feature really shines. Imagine a Venmo widget, Starbucks widget, even a widget that you could play a game on while you're on your home screen. Who knows? The possibilities are endless. The only stock Apple widget, though, that I wish we could see would be a notifications widget. That would be nice to be on your home screen and be able to see all of your texts or YouTube notifications or whatever it is while you're scrolling through your apps. Okay, moving on, there's another Android-like home screen feature being added, the app library. Again, much like the applications folder on macOS, you now have one page for all of your apps, and you don't need to feature all your apps on your main home screen, which is super nice. If they didn't add that, but they did allow widgets, it would have just created so many pages moving all those apps forward. So to remove pages, you can just hold down and go into jiggle mode.
I just go into jiggle mode?
And then you can uncheck pages that you don't want. Then all of the apps from that will now still be accessible, but only in the app library, which features all of your apps. This is useful for storing those apps that you know you want to keep because you use them sometimes, but you don't need cluttering your home screen. Each app is sorted into auto-generated folders. Each app is sorted into auto-generated folders in the app library. But as far as I can see, you can't move apps from one folder in the app library to another, which is annoying. Like, I would like to see the YouTube app and Twitch in the same folder, but for some reason Apple has separated them. Same with a ton of other apps. These auto characterizations seem a bit random. Like, here's one folder with a bunch of social media platforms called Social, and then here's another called Creativity with a bunch of other social media apps that should be in that category. Not to mention Reddit, YouTube, and others that are also social media platforms, but are in different folders as well. I really wish you could customize these folders to make apps easier to find. Although, in the meantime, if you are having trouble finding the app, there is a list view and a search bar still for finding apps that I'll still probably end up using most of the time. Honestly, I feel like this type of Android-like customization are just the kind of updates that I like to see. They don't get rid of anything or are cumbersome for anyone, but if you want to, you can add the new features onto your phone and use them. A great example of this is that you can now set new default browser and email apps like Gmail and Chrome, so you can really turn this into an Android phone if you wanted to. And new in messages, you can pin important conversations. And in the conversation, you can now set a photo for group chats, and you can turn off group chat notifications if you want, and only get them when people tag you in their message. You can even start small conversation threads in a group chat, which is nice. For business meetings, when people might normally use a platform like Slack, this is really, really nice. However, I don't see a ton of people using this in normal conversation. Could be wrong though. Moving on to some smaller stuff, much of the UI now only takes up part of the screen, which is nice, with the ultimate goal of allowing for multitasking on an iPhone. And it's not quite there yet, but it's closer than ever. Siri now only takes up part of the screen, which is kind of nice, but the whole idea was that it wouldn't be the only thing you were doing, and you could continue typing or playing a game or whatever it was while talking to Siri. But at this point, even with Siri only taking up part of the screen when it is on, it's the only thing you can do on the screen. If you try to interact with the screen, it just gets rid of Siri, which defeats the purpose a little, although you can reference what is on screen at least if you want to read something to Siri. Maybe you want to read Siri a bedtime story, you can do that now. There's also picture-in-picture video. Pretty nice. It works with basically any video in Safari, however, it doesn't seem to work yet on Netflix and YouTube. And I actually kinda doubt that it will ever work with YouTube, even Safari YouTube, which works at the moment, but I think YouTube might crack down on that. Because usually being able to go home and still have audio playing in the background on YouTube is a YouTube Premium only feature. So I feel like YouTube probably won't let entire videos play from outside of their app on the home screen without having purchased YouTube Premium, but we'll have to see. It does also work with FaceTime, however, so that's nice. The other new compact feature is cell phone and FaceTime notifications. They no longer take up the whole screen and they just come up on the top. That's a great feature because unlike with Siri, you can continue to use your phone while someone is trying to call you. Makes it easier to ghost someone if you wanted to. Okay, moving into some more smaller details, Apple's offered a bunch of new things when it comes to privacy. In the App Store, for example, you can see what exactly apps will need to use from you, such as the camera, microphone, etc. And when you're in the app, there's now a small dot on the top right corner of the screen, green for camera and orange for the microphone, to alert you that they're using those features, literally every single time. All of these new privacy features are probably pretty annoying for nosy developers, but it should be fine for everyone who wasn't doing anything shady to begin with. Oh, and searchable emojis are now a thing. Nice. Although I've really been using Gboard for so long, I forgot Apple Keyboard didn't offer this before, but glad it's here now. Then there's those really fine details. In the camera app, it's easier to get to settings since there's a new arrow on the top, and there's a new hidden accessibility feature that I really like called a back tap. So essentially, if you tap the back of your phone with your finger, you can set it to do whatever you want. It can open an app, Siri, the app switcher. You can even program it to start a Siri shortcut. You can also set it to 3 taps, where I currently have it opening Siri. However, some have said that they felt like the double tap has been a bit too sensitive. Like, when you put the phone down, sometimes it activates. And they're right, it actually happens more often than you think, but that seems to only really be a problem if you don't have a case on your phone. I use a case and haven't had many issues. Also, what's interesting is that this back tap feature is available on every phone that runs iOS 14. All of them. Does this mean that these phones, all the way back to the iPhone 6S, have always had these back touch sensors and they were just waiting years to release this software that would activate that feature? Huh, weird. Moving on, I can't forget about the one new app Apple has added, the native Translate app. It's fine, but it's still definitely inferior to Google Translate in nearly every way, as it doesn't have that really nice camera live translate feature, but they're getting there. There's also a new car key feature, where in select cars, specifically I think only one at this point, but I'm sure other cars will roll out this in the future, you'll be able to use your phone as your key and lock and unlock your car using your phone, which is pretty nice. There's also an update to CarPlay, where you can now add custom screen wallpapers, which I'm surprised wasn't a feature before. Oh, and app clips. It's where a developer can create small, mini versions of an app for one-time use that the user can use to pay for a parking spot, buy something from a store they may only visit once, etc. And this works by scanning an Apple proprietary QR code with the camera app.
The best way to discover app clips will be with a new Apple-designed app clip code. So when you see one, you'll know that there's an app clip waiting for you. They incorporate both a visual code and NFC. So you tap on them or scan them with the camera to bring up an app clip.
In theory, it's a great feature, since it prevents you from always having to download a brand new app every time you want to do something like that, which is definitely an issue we've all probably experienced. And having it under 10 megabytes means your phone will almost always have the storage to handle the download of an app clip. They even parody the original "there's an app for that" commercial by saying "there's an app clip for that" with that same annoying voice.
There's an app clip for that. Ooh, an app clip for that. App clip for that. App clip. Yup. App clip. Ice cream. App clip.
Like many of the features in iOS 14, it's going to ultimately come down to the developers if they want to develop different and new app clips. It will also come down to the businesses or places that could offer an app clip if they want to implement these Apple QR codes, since they'll probably have to pay a fee in order to use app clips, or they could just stick to whatever current system they've been using. We'll have to see if people decide they want to adapt to this new feature. And that's pretty much it. for this whole update. I know there are other features, like a few new accessibility features, the new Memoji stuff, and a way to keep photos looking steady in night mode, but for me, these are pretty much the only noticeable ones. But this beta is only a couple days old, so every day people are discovering new features. And there are a ton of feature roundup videos online from different creators highlighting their favorite features and little things that they may have noticed. I highly recommend checking them all out. And there are so many phones that support iOS 14. It's really pretty great, all the way down to the iPhone 6s and Gen 1 iPhone SE. So if you have an iPhone that's not too old, chances are iOS 14 will be supported when it comes out in the fall, which is great. Now, I haven't downloaded any of the other softwares yet, but the one that intrigues me, of course, is macOS Big Sur. Why is it called Big Sur? Is that a place in California? It's like Big Chungus, but instead of Chungus, they said Sur. I don't understand the name. The software itself is hella weird. Like, what is this? Or this? Or this? It's like Apple was like, okay, we started off with these icons, and they looked pretty nice. Then we went to the modern icons. Now what do? We could have done nothing since it works and people will be happy and no one complained about it and they're fixing a problem that there never was, but instead they're like, no, we'll just add a drop shadow to literally everything, which is what they did to create this abomination. Back to iOS 14. The beta really hasn't been that bad, but would I recommend getting this developer beta on your main device? No. Did I? Yes. Do I regret it? No, it's really pretty great. Don't forget to ring my like button and subscribe to my bell to be notified when the review for my 16-inch MacBook Pro goes up. We've got a lot to talk about now that macOS Big Sur is out. I gotta go read Siri a bedtime story. See you next week.